So we were discussing how there is a foreign key here in the student table senior guide, which hasn't been defined within the command itself. And the reason for that is that if we were to define the senior guide foreign key, we would be referencing the student ID primary key of the student table, student ID attribute of the student table, which actually do not exist until we execute this entire command. So therein lies the conflict. So what is the solution? To add the constraint later on. However, we will circle back to that when we're talking about the alter table command, all right? So just keep that at the back of your head and we'll circle back to this alter table command. All right, now, so once we have created the student table, that is, forget about this bit here, just focusing on the command itself. Once we are done executing this command, and once we have created the student table, then we can actually go on to create the student course table as well, right? And the student course table, remember, would have a composite primary key made up of student ID and course ID, course code, all right? And the foreign keys referencing the STID from student table and course code from student. So basically, just another example of a table with multiple foreign keys and a composite primary key. Okay. Now, on the topic of altering tables. So for that as well, just how we have a syntax, a specific syntax for create table command, for the create table command, the syntax that we refer to here, just how we have a syntax that we must follow for the create table command, you also have a syntax for alter table command, which you must follow as well. So the alter table command, right after that, you must pass the name of the table that you are going to alter. Here, since you're altering the table, this must be a name, or this must be a table that already exists, all right? যদি কোন এমন একটা টেবিলের নাম পাস করি বা এমন একটা নাম পাস করি যে নামের কোনো টেবিল এক্সিস্টই করে না, ওই টেবিল আমি চেঞ্জ করব কিভাবে, right? So the table name must exist among the tables that you've created so far, all right? So then you pass the name of the table, one of the tables that you've created, the table that you're trying to modify, and then the action that you're going to perform on top of it. Now the action itself has its own syntax. The alter table action that you're going to perform, it has its own syntax, all right? Depending on what action you're performing. If you want to add something, let's say if you want to add a column, first you must use the SQL keyword or the SQL command add, and then the name of the column and the rest of the column definition. If you want to add a constraint on the other hand, similarly, use the SQL keyword add, the name of the constraint and the rest of the details of the constraint, as you can see here. So based on the alter syntax, alter table syntax, as you can see, first we start with, just like create table, by the way, just like create table, first you must start with this alter table command, the alter table command, the name of the table that you're altering, as you can see here. Alter table command, the name of the table we are trying to alter, which is the student table, so student underscore t. Then follows the alter table action. What is the action we are trying to perform? In the student table, what is the alter table action we are trying to perform? We are trying to add a constraint, right? We are trying to add a constraint. So for that, we must use the add command, and then the rest of the details of the constraint. So as you can see here, the add command and then the rest of the details. Adding, what are you adding? We're adding a constraint. What are you adding? You're adding a constraint. And then you use the keyword constraint, and just how you would define the rest of the constraint, you just do that here. Notice that after add, the rest of the command completely resembles how you would define a constraint within the table. And that's how it works, all right? For adding a column as well. See here, alter table customer t, the customer underscore t, the table that already exists. And then we want to add a column. After the add column command, the rest of it completely resembles how you would define a column within a table. টেবিলের মধ্যে আমি কাস্টমার টেবিলে যখন কাস্টমার টাইপের নামে কোন একটা কলাম যদি আমি টেবিল ডিফাইন করার সময় অ্যাড করতাম, যেভাবে ডেফিনিশনটা দেয়া হতো, ফার্স্ট দ্য কলাম নেম, দেন দ্য ডেটা টাইপ, Was I disconnected for a while there, guys?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. It was okay.
Guys, were there any issues with the network or the
No,
reception?
ma'am. It was okay.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, no, I can't hear you guys. Can someone please respond for me to figure
Hello,
out if I
ma'am.
can hear you?
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me now. And let me take a look. Right.
maybe it's an issue with the headphones, I guess.
Can someone please respond?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, Tobu. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's fine. All right, going back to our topic. Right then, the alter table, add column, table action. So for add column, what I was saying is that, see, the rest of the command resembles completely exactly what we would do or how we would define a column within a table. The name of the column, the data type, any constraints that are there on the column, the default values, if there are any, and so on. Everything is just the same. Same goes for when you try to add a constraint as well. Add constraint and then followed by everything you do when you want to define a constraint in the table. Same things, all right? So, but you should always start with this command, the alter table command. Which table are you altering? First, you must start with that, and then you follow with the alter table action. Whether you're adding a column or you're adding a constraint, whether you're dropping a column or dropping a constraint, whether you're altering a certain column. You can even alter a specific column as well. All right.
Miss, what's wrong with just editing the original table?
You've already defined the table. This is how you edit the original table. This is you editing the original table, isn't it? There is a table, let's say called the customer table or the student table. That is the original table, and you're editing that. And you can't go back to this command, can you? Because you have already executed that command. A command to আমরা already, a command to আমরা already execute করে ফেলেছি, the command on the top. And this is indeed us editing the student table.
Oh, I thought it would be as simple as, going into the original table and rewriting or editing there.
But what do you mean by original table? Do you mean this command?
Yes.
But if you were to edit this command and execute it again, what would the DBMS see? It would see create table. সেটা দেখবে the create table command. The moment it sees create table, it will try to create a table named student. And when it tries to create a table named student, it will see that, okay, it already exists. I cannot create another table by the same name. So that is the problem. This command here.
I think probably he meant it like a GUI approach to it.
Come again?
Like, I think he probably meant like a GUI approach to it.
Oh, right. No. Yeah, you can use the GUI as well, of course. When every DBMS comes with a GUI, and you can do that. You can click on the table and edit that and all those things. Yes, of course, it's made to be easy like that. But once again, we need to understand these things because think about it. Actually, আমরা এই কমান্ডগুলা এখন আর লিখি না। অনেক কিছুই হচ্ছে কি আমরা যেটা বললাম যে মডেল ডিফাইন করি, ফ্রেমওয়ার্কে মডেল ডিফাইন করার পরে হচ্ছে কি আমার ব্যাকএন্ড অটোমেটিক্যালি এটা SQL এ কনভার্ট করে if you follow the right rules for defining a model, and these tables are created. How did that come to being? We did that. We created frameworks in such a manner that model define করলে model থেকে এটাতে automatically translate করছে to make the rest of the lives of the developers easier. All right. So GUI use করে you can only go so far. What I'm trying to tell you is that yes, using the GUI you can do these things for sure, but nonetheless you have to understand how it works. GUI তে আমি যে ক্লিক করছি ঠিক আছে, ultimately আমি যে একটা মানে কোন একটা স্পেসিফিক বাটন বা কোন একটা ট্যাবে ক্লিক করছি, ওই because of my click, because of that signal that I'm sending, that signal is being translated to this command ultimately. Yes, you can use a GUI. You will see that database গিয়ে তুমি একটা টেবিল ক্লিক করে, in fact এইভাবে টেবিল ডিফাইনও করতে হবে না. You can just click on a plus button and create table button or something like that, and then you can do it just using the GUI without using any of these commands. But we have to understand every single time we send a response, what happens, what that signal is being translated to. আমি যখন বলছি যে আমি স্টুডেন্ট টেবিলটা চেঞ্জ করব or এই কিছু কনস্ট্যান্ট অ্যাড করব using some click or some forms or entering fields, values of fields in the form, but what is that being translated to? We need to understand the command. If you don't understand the command, then we cannot possibly find a way to use these things better, because the fact that we can nowadays we don't even have to write these commands and these things are made easier for us. How did that happen at all? All right, how did that happen at all, and how can you make it better? So এটার জন্য আমাদেরকে the basics টা বুঝতে হবে. So yes, if you are indeed talking about whether we can do this by student table গিয়ে হচ্ছে গিয়ে by just a couple of clicks away, if we can do this, yes you can, for sure. এই জিনিসটা করতে পারো, but nonetheless you need to understand what is the command, what is the underlying command, যে command follow করে হচ্ছে গিয়ে এই কাজটা করা হচ্ছে. All right, so even if you click it, that click is being translated into this command. So we need to understand that. Does that make sense?
ম্যাম আমার একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল,
হ্যাঁ বলো.
আমি যদি অল্টার টেবিল যে কমান্ডটা আছে ওটা এক্সিকিউট করি, ওখানে তো অ্যাড কনস্ট্রেন্ট আছে,
Mhm.
তো আমার কি ক্রিয়েট টেবিল যে কমান্ডটা ছিল ওখানে কি এডিট হয়ে যাবে, or জাস্ট এটা আলাদাভাবে একটা কমান্ড হিসেবে কাজ করবে?
This is separate. This is separate. Maybe you're confused because we kept it together. When we talk about this alter table command, forget about this. All right. This is completely separate. The moment we execute this command, DBMS will go line by line. First, you take the alter table. Alter table, which table? Student tables. It will go to the student table, and then it will see, okay, add constraint. Constraint add করতে হবে, then it will look for the rest of the details of the constraint. নাম হবে কি student underscore fk2, so সেই constraint add করে দিবে. Then the type of the constraint, সে একটা foreign key constraint add করবে. On which attribute? Senior guide attribute. Remember that senior guide attribute already exists in the student table because we have created it as such. And then references student table. Does it already exist? Yes, we have created the table already. Reference the student table of the and the stid attribute of the student table. So yes, they are separate. This student table, once we have created it, it exists in the database. All right. Let's say, for example, Python. Acha. Okay, so see here in the admin interface, let's take a look at that. So in the SPMS practice database, if I want to create a table, all right, so I can, what you guys were saying, can I do that just without using any SQL command? Yes, you can, right? But we need to understand how to write a query nonetheless, how to write the query or how to write the SQL, the proper SQL command. So what was our SQL command? This, creating the student table, right? That was our command. Let's try and do that. We might get a bunch of errors because I'm just copy pasting. So let's just see. Error pore আমরা fix করতে পারবো. Our number is not null. Okay, all right. So that is the first error. So let's just say we're going to make it numeric. All right. And I'm not sure if it's going to allow 70. Let's just try to do it. Okay. Varchar 2. Okay, Varchar 2 is not allowed. Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, this one is going to be numeric as well. By the way, is this visible, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, miss.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So foreign key, of course, foreign key constraint cannot be added because the department table doesn't exist yet. Right. So we can just remove that for now and just execute it as such. Okay, done. Right. So the student table has been created. See here, the moment this is executed, on the left-hand side, the student table is now there. It's present. Okay. So yes, of course, you can see here, there's an alter table command. Alter table or option ache. I can do that in this manner as well, using the GUI. However, we need to understand nonetheless how the alter table command works. So now if I were to execute this command, okay, Acha, before I do the alter table command, see here, if I try to add something, তোমরা যে বলছিলা যে এখানে কোনো কিছু করতে পারবো কিনা, এখন যদি এখানে আমি একটা constraint add করি, let's say if I were to add, what is that? The constraint for the, what was it? The senior guide, right? Yeah. ওটার senior guide এর constraint যদি আমি এখানে add করতাম,
তারপর লাইন বাই লাইন পড়ে আসবে ক্রিয়েট টেবল করে নাকি?
here. See what happens. Look at the error. It won't work. Why? Because DBMS sees that this is a create table command. Creating which table? Student table. But that table already exists. So it won't allow you to do that. You cannot edit the table by later on editing the command and executing again. It doesn't work that way. Because আমরা তো already এই টেবিলটা ক্রিয়েট করে ফেলেছি, একটু আগে টেবিলটা ক্রিয়েট হয়ে গেছে, you've seen that, right? So আমি যদি এখন এই কনস্ট্রেন্টটাইতে এই যে একই কমান্ডটাই ক্রিয়েট টেবল কমান্ডটাকে এডিট করে এই কনস্ট্রেন্টটা অ্যাড করে যদি আবার এক্সিকিউট করতে চাই, it will not work because the student table has already been created. You cannot do that now. All right. So what we must do is we must use the alter table command because student table has already been created. We cannot create it again. We must use the alter table command. Okay, this manner. See here. Previously, remember, we didn't make senior guide a foreign key, but now if you take a look at student table, you will see that senior guide here, as you can see here, senior guide is a foreign key. It wasn't like that before. Now, does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Okay, moving back. Right then. So that's our alter table command. So whenever you need to change a command or add something to it, whether it's a column, whether it's a constraint, you can do that later on. But first, you must start with the alter table command and then follow with the rest of the syntax for the specific table action that you want to perform. All right. Whether it's changing a certain column. By the way, you can alter, not just add or delete or drop. You can just alter a specific command as well. In that, let's say you want to add a constraint to a specific column or add a default to a certain specific column, drop a constraint from a specific column, drop the not null constraint, drop the default or something like that and so on. And also, another constraint that we haven't talked about yet is the restrict cascade set null constraint. Remember these terms from relational schema design. Restrict cascade set null. We use these to make sure of the referential integrity, that the referential integrity is in place when a certain primary key value is deleted. Let's say, for example, take a look at this relation here. A customer is related with multiple order instances. That is, a customer can place multiple orders. Fine, very good. Let's say Topu has placed a couple of orders so far in Chaldal, and then he decides to delete his account, completely deletes his account, so his data from the customer table database, from the database in Chaldal's system will be deleted, his data. So in the customer table, Topu's customer ID will be deleted. Then what about those rows in the order table where his ID is being referenced? Remember, as per the referential integrity rule, you cannot have any value in the foreign key column which does not exist in the primary column it is referencing. So order table e giye jodi emon kono row te Topur customer ID thake and at the same time Topu's customer ID does not exist in the customer table, you cannot have that scenario at all. That is not allowed. That's illegal. So what can we do? We can place these constraints, all right, so that the DBMS knows how to handle these scenarios or these situations. So on update restrict rule ki korbe? On update restrict rule will not allow us to delete Topu's row at all. When we try to delete Topu's row from the customer table, the restrict rule, because we have set this constraint, পুরা টেবিলের উপরেই কিন্তু কনস্ট্রেইনটা দিয়েছি on update restrict, আর একটা কলামের উপরও চাইলে দিতে পারো, ঠিক আছে? For example, here we have applied the on update restrict rule on the customer primary key column, ঠিক আছে? So what happens is that যখন customer ID ভ্যালুটা customer ID primary key উপরে on update restrict যদি customer ID value যখন আপডেট করতে যাব সে ফার্স্ট চেক করবে এই customer ID ভ্যালুটা is it being referenced in any other table at all or not. যদি দেখে যে it is referenced, that is order table এ গিয়ে দেখলো যে Topur customer ID order table এর মধ্যে কোনো একটা রোতে আছে, একটা দুটা whatever কোনো একটা রোতে আছে at least, right away the DBMS will give you an error signal and will tell you that you're not allowed to delete his data because that data is being referenced in some other table. All right. So এই জিনিসটা mention করে দিলে the DBMS knows how to handle these scenarios, because otherwise we are breaking the referential integrity rule, which says that you cannot have a value in the foreign key column that references a value that does not exist in the primary key column, in the corresponding primary key column. All right. So on update cascade, on the other hand, যদি আমি এই constraint বসাই, it means that whenever the customer ID value is changed, the customer ID value that is being changed, that exists in the order table, will also be changed correspondingly. All right. So let's say, for example, Topur customer ID এতদিন ছিল 111, এখন ওটা থেকে আমি চেঞ্জ করে করতে চাচ্ছি 112. So customer table Topur's customer ID previously was 111, it now has been changed to 112. Order table the customer ID will automatically be updated. Let's say customer table থেকে Topur customer ID আমি delete করে দিয়েছি, order table থেকে automatically Topur's customer ID will be deleted. The entire row, right? And so on. And then the other option is the set null rule. That is, if the customer ID, the primary key value that is changed in some way, whether you delete it, whether you change it, whatever you do, J value ta, original J value ta order table reference kora hocchilo, in the order table, those values will be set to null. That is, let's say Topur's customer ID, we delete that. We delete his information from the customer table. Automatically, order table e giye JJ row te customer ID value is 111, 111, that is. ওখানে 111 এর জায়গায় একটা null value বসাতে হবে. Under the customer ID column where there was 111, it will be changed and set to null. The rest of the things will be the same. Just 111 এর জায়গায় null থাকবে. Or let's say Topur's customer ID changes from 111 to 112. In the customer table, that is. In the customer table, 111 থেকে 112 তে চেঞ্জ করেছি। Order table এ যাবে দেখবে কোন কোন রোতে 111 আছে। ওই রোগুলোতে customer ID once again set to null. Default set to null. That is 111 ছিল ওটাকে null করে দেওয়া হবে, as simple as that. Cascade হচ্ছে কি the change is replicated, set null এ automatically set to null, as simple as that. And set default is a new thing that we haven't seen so far in relational schema design. এটাতে যেটা করা হয় সেটা হচ্ছে কি it will be changed to a default value. Just how set null sets to null by default, এখানে হচ্ছে it will set to a default value that we will provide or that was provided. All right. So these, if you have these constraints on a certain column, you can add those constraints later on or drop those constraints as well, as you can see here. And finally, the only other command that we have drop table. Yes.
Could you show the previous slide, the restrict, update restrict? Yeah.
Yes.
Could you repeat the restricted update thing? I didn't catch the fact. If customer ID is updated, what will happen to the order?
For the restrict case,
Yeah, yeah.
it will not allow you to
Okay, I
update
cannot
the customer
update
ID at all.
customer ID.
If it exists in the order table. Let's say, for example, you are a customer of Chaldal, but so far you haven't placed any order at all. Your customer
Then I
ID
can
does not
change
exist in
my
the
ID.
order table at all. Yes, in that case, we can change your customer ID or delete your customer ID, whatever, that's fine. But if your data exists or if your data is referenced in the order table, then the DBMS will not allow us to delete your data at all. Make sense now?
And you mentioned long time ago about like if my customer data is gone, my order and the whole order thing is gone. When does that happen?
In case of Cascade, in case of Cascade, the change is replicated. Whatever change you make to the customer data, if that specific data is referenced in the order table, that data will be changed in the same way.
Like if I delete the customer, the order deletes fully. Like the order for the
Let's say, for example, in the customer table, we have Topu's data in one row, right? So Topu's customer ID is 111, like we've discussed so far. In the order table, so far he has placed 4 orders via Chaldal. So there are 4 rows correspondingly in the order table, which has Topu's customer ID because he has placed 4 orders so far. So chapter rote Topu customer ID is 111. So what the cascade rule will do is, if we were to delete Topu's row from the customer table, যেই রোতে তপুর ডেটা আছে 111 কাস্টমার আইডি, ওই রোটা ডিলিট করে দিলাম। অর্ডার টেবিলে গিয়ে যেই 4টা রোতে তপুর কাস্টমার আইডি আছে, ওই 4টা রো ডিলিট করে দেওয়া হবে।
Okay, so the row themselves fully get deleted.
Yeah.
I thought you said only in the row in the customer ID part it gets deleted.
No. What do you মানে what does it mean for to delete a customer ID?
Yeah.
Customer ID delete করা মানে কি? If you mean that customer ID delete করা মানে it will be set to null, then it's a set to null rule. That's not the cascade rule. Cascade rule হচ্ছে কি, আমি কাস্টমারে যে কাজটা করব অর্ডারে গিয়ে একই কাজ হবে। কাস্টমার আমি কি করছি, তপুর এন্টায়ার রোটা ডিলিট করে দিচ্ছি। His entire row, his data is deleted. There was a single row যে রোতে তপুর কাস্টমার আইডি নেম blah 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 সবকিছু ছিল, ওই রোটা ডিলিট করে দিচ্ছি। দেখবো a customer ID value, this 111, does it exist in the order table? Yes, it does. It exists in 4 rows. ওই 4টা রো পুরোটা ডিলিট করে দিব। Another scenario is that I will change Topu's ID. Customer ID 111 থেকে আমি চেঞ্জ করে 112 করলাম। Instead of 111, I make it 112 in the customer table. The row exists, the row is still there, but ID টা চেঞ্জ করে দিলাম। ID চেঞ্জ করা মানে তো হচ্ছে কি অ্যাকচুয়ালি রেফারেন্স মানে পুরো রোটাই অ্যাকচুয়ালি চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেছে। By that we mean that the rest of the attributes we keep the same, but the main identifying attribute, customer ID value, ওটা 111 থেকে 112 তে চেঞ্জ করে দিলাম। That is the key, right? So what will happen in case of the cascade rule? In case of the cascade rule, what will happen is that order table gate will search for all the rows where the customer ID value is 111. It will find 4 rows, right? 4টা রো পাবে যেখানে 111. In those 4 rows, the customer ID value will be updated to 112. So whatever change you make in the customer table will be replicated in the order table. If you update the customer ID from 111 to 112, order table as well, in the order table as well, the customer ID value will be updated from 111 to 112. If you delete the customer's data from the customer table, in the order table as well, the customer's row, that specific customer's rows will be deleted. The change will be replicated.
Got that one. And final question, will there not be a conflict যদি আমার customer ID তে দিয়ে রেখেছি not null, but last
Customer ID where is it not null? In order table or customer table?
In the create table, if it is, oh sorry,
Not null.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like if the primary key is not null, then
but we are not setting the primary key to null. You can never set a primary key to null. আমরা তো primary key কে null set করছি না। Order table customer ID will be there as a foreign key, remember.
So the foreign key can be null.
Obviously, yes, the foreign key can of course be null. এটা তো আমরা remember we discussed that when we were talking about relational schema. A foreign key is allowed to be null. That is the referential integrity rule. That is a foreign key value must reference a primary key value that exists. If the primary key value doesn't exist, the foreign key value is allowed to be null. It can be null, but it must point towards a primary key value that exists. যদি exist না করে দরকার হলে null করো, but
Yeah.
garbage value দিতে পারবো না।
So in the order table,
Yeah.
I can personally set it to not null, right? The foreign key.
Yes, you can, of course. But
And
if you
so-
do set it to null, then you cannot use the set null constraint anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So there will be a conflict.
Then
If
it will
I
be a conflict. Then
one
there will be a
output
conflict.
at null in
Yes.
create table customer.
Yes, then there will be a conflict. If you force, when you are creating the order table, if you force that, if you enforce the foreign key to be not null, that is foreign key column to define করার সময় যদি আমি বলে দিই customer ID not null, in that case there will be a conflict definitely. So set null constraint apply করা যাবেই না, and in some cases there could be a conflict with cascade as well, right?
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Any questions? Okay, that's all with DDL, their definition language. Now, if you take a look at some of the resources that have already been shared with you, what you should do ideally is take a look at the PVFC and PUBs database, this material that was shared with you, and try and at least create the databases. So PVFC database, as you know, these are the commands for creating the database, all right? So I think, yeah, these are all the commands for, yeah, until here. Inserted act পর্যন্ত, these are all the create commands, all right? So try and you don't need to do the delete commands at all. You don't need to do the drop commands because you're going to start from fresh. That is the case where if something goes wrong, the mechanism is there just for you to be able to start from fresh by default. But you can, if you want to, you can include the drop table commands as well. So as you can see, drop table if exists and so on. So at least try creating the database, all right? Creating the tables in the database. And then we'll go into inserts, all right? We will discuss a little bit of insert. You can try it out as well. But at the very least, you should try creating the tables. And same thing for the PUBs database, all right? PUBs database এর জন্য একই জিনিস করা উচিত, ঠিক আছে? So you should create the tables. In the PUBs database, you will see that unlike the PVFC database, PUBs database এর যে তোমাদের সাথে যে definition share করা হয়েছে, create table and then insert. So if you don't understand how insert works, skip insert. You don't need to do the inserts. At least try these out. The create table command, the create table command again for country, and then once again create table command for another table and so on. At least try the create table commands. এখানে প্রত্যেকটা create table command দেখে তোমরা নিজেরা try করবে। কোথায় try করবে? In your whichever interface that you're using, that specific interface, all right? So let's say for example, if we delete this, let's say, let's just drop it for now. First, you need to create a database, ঠিক আছে? So আমি যদি একটা নতুন database create করতে চাই, create a database, simply just whatever you want to name
create
it.
a database, এটা SQL command দিয়ে করা যায় না?
PVFC করলাম, ঠিক আছে? হ্যাঁ, definitely you can do that, creating a database, মানে schema দিয়ে করতে হবে. That becomes a bit complex because তোমার first schema create করতে হবে and so on. So ওই ঝামেলাতে আমরা যাব না, কারণ কি database actually যখন আমরা সবসময় যে ক্রিয়েট করি database, আমাদের database ক্রিয়েট করার সময় আমাদেরকে দেখবা যে actually this is a lot simpler. When you use your framework, তখন database create করাটা actually a bit more complex because you have to make your framework talk to the database. So a lot of rules are in place there. So এই জায়গাটা হচ্ছে কি আমরা এটা নিয়ে বদারই করব না because how you're going to create the database using the framework is actually more complex than just the SQL command itself. So ওটা নিয়ে আমরা বদারই করব না. You will see that when you try to create the database for your project. প্রজেক্টের যখন ক্রিয়েট করতে যাবে ডাটাবেসটা, তখন হচ্ছে কি কেন এটা কমপ্লিকেটেড? কারণ কি আমাকে ডাটাবেসের পাসওয়ার্ড হচ্ছে কি প্রোভাইড করে দিতে হয়, ডাটাবেসের সাথে কানেকশনটা এস্টাবলিশ করতে হয়, কিছু ঝামেলা থাকে। সো ওটা নিয়ে হচ্ছে কি আমরা খুব একটা বদর করবো না। ইটস নট সামথিং দ্যাট উই নিড টু ফোকাস অন। জাস্ট হাউ লেটস সে ওই যে ডেটা কন্ট্রোল ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের উপর যেরকম আমরা ফোকাস করছি না, বিকজ ইটস ভেরি সিম্পল এন্ড স্ট্রেট ফরওয়ার্ড। ওখানে হচ্ছে গিয়ে তোমার খুব চিন্তা করার কোনো কিছু নাই, লজিক্যাল কোনো কিছু নাই যেখানে হচ্ছে কি তোমার লজিক্যাল থিঙ্কিং অ্যাপ্লাই করতে হবে, এনিথিং লাইক দ্যাট। সো উই নট গোইং টু ফোকাস অন দিস আইদার। আচ্ছা, নাও creating the database, then one by one, if you want to, let's say, create the tables. ঠিক আছে, let's try and create the PVSC database থেকে একটা টেবিল আমরা ক্রিয়েট করি। Where was it? Here, right? Let's try and create the customer table. Simply, it's a matter of just copy paste. কপি করবা, কিছু প্রবলেম ফেস করতে পারো, প্রবলেমগুলো ট্রাবল শুট যখন করতে যাবা তখনই হচ্ছে কি you will learn, right? Just simply execute. As simple as that.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Given how draw.io was very clunky to use and not at all suitable for the exams, admitter key, is it suitable for exams?
Yeah, admitter is like at least the one that I use, it's used for commercial purposes. So this one I can guarantee that it will be bug free. But this one that I am using right now, this is definitely bug free, or this is not going to be difficult to use at all. Whichever tool you use depends on that. If you use something, that is commonly used, let's say XAMPP type or কোনো কিছু যদি ইউজ করা হয়, এটা হচ্ছে commonly use করা হয়, stable version use করে তোমাদের কোনো প্রবলেম হওয়ার কথা না। But এক্সামে these things will be there for you to check. তুমি যেটা করতে পারো, তোমার কমান্ডটা লিখে চেক করতে পারো whether it works or not. Ultimately কিন্তু কমান্ডটা তোমার হচ্ছে গিয়ে the text you have to provide, all right? The text you have to provide. So কমান্ডটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে this is going to be there in place for you. মানে what you can do is তোমার হচ্ছে গিয়ে তুমি যে ডেস্কটপ টুল ইউজ করো বা অনলাইন যেটাই ইউজ করো না কেন, ওখানে গিয়ে তুমি যে কমান্ডটা লিখছো ট্রাই করে দেখতে পারো যে whether you have written the right command or not, just to check whether it works. Ultimately you will be providing the text of the command. And for the project as well, of course, whichever you use, definitely it will not be anywhere close to draw.io. It will be much smoother than that. Now, moving on. You can, I think from what I can recall, you can execute multiple create table commands together as well. ধরো আমি তিনটা কমান্ড একসাথে এক্সিকিউট করতে যাচ্ছি, একসাথে এক্সিকিউট করতে পারবো। But however, I would recommend against it because you are in the learning phase. কোনো একটা এরর থাকলে ট্রাবল শুট করাটা একটু ডিফিকাল্ট হয়। সো লেটস সে আমরা তো একটা টেবিল মাত্র এক্সিকিউট করলাম, আমরা চাইলে হচ্ছে কি একসাথে কয়েকটা টেবিল অ্যাকচুয়ালি ক্রিয়েট করতে পারি, রাইট? As you can see here, multiple queries executed. However, এটা আমি কি কোন যে কারণে আমি রেকমেন্ড করছি না, because you guys are just starting out. কোন একটা এররে, কোন একটা জায়গায়, কোন একটা কমান্ডে, কোন একটা জায়গায় যদি ছোট একটা সমস্যা থাকে, তখন ট্রাবল শুট করতে তোমাদের জন্য একটু ডিফিকাল্ট হতে পারে। I would recommend execute one create table command at a time to start with. Once you're very used to with the errors and you know what's what, then you can try doing complex stuff and so on. But for now, execute just one command at a time, all right? Like this manner, okay, in this manner. This won't work because we have already created the table. You will get an error as you can see here. So এইভাবে করেছি কি আমরা at least table গুলো create করার চেষ্টা করতে পারি, as you can see here, okay? Once you're done creating all of the table, then you can go into the insert command. And the moment you go into insert command, we go into DML. Remember, the moment we try to insert data into our table, we are manipulating the data, all right? We are manipulating the data. So far, we have defined the data. We have created the skeleton. আমরা just table গুলো create করেছি. See here, for all the tables that we have created, none of them contain any data at all. কোনোটার মধ্যে কোনো data নেই, all right? If you were to fetch from the table, we will not get anything at all. Select all from, let's say, customer underscore T.
We haven't populated yet, right? So
That's right, we haven't populated yet. So it will not show anything, no rows at all. So far, we have just created the skeleton, just the definition of the columns. Then we need to move into the data in the column. And that's where we need the DML commands, the data manipulation commands, the insert commands. So the insert command starts with the insert into command. You must always start with insert into, then which table are you inserting into? Once again, this is a value that we will provide. This customer underscore T, is this an SQL keyword or an SQL command, guys? Customer underscore T, no, it's not. It's a value that we are providing. But can we provide just any random value here? Can we do that? Can we pass any random value? No, that's right. It must exist. The customer table must exist. So insert into customer underscore T na diye, if you do hoche giye Batman underscore T, it will not work, all right? It will not exist. So it doesn't exist, and that's why it will not work. And then values, once again an SQL keyword. Values, after that, values will be followed by the specific values that you're entering. Here we need to be very careful. Why? Because this must be in keeping with the sequence of the columns in the customer table. See here, আমরা কি এখানে বলে দিচ্ছি যে কোনটা কোন ভ্যালু 001 কোন কিসের ভ্যালু, আইডির ভ্যালু নাকি কাস্টমার নেমের ভ্যালু না কিসের ভ্যালু, এটাকে আমরা বলে দিচ্ছি না, we're not saying that, we're not specifying that. So it must follow the sequence that we have followed when we were defining the customer table. This was our definition for the customer table. What is it that we defined first? The customer ID, then the customer name, then customer address, then city, state, postal code, and so on, right? So here as well, the first value you provide must be the customer ID value. এখানে গিয়ে যদি আমি contemporary casuals insert করার চেষ্টা করি, it will give me an error. Why is that? Because in the customer table, while we were creating the customer table, we inserted or we created the customer ID column first. So সবার আগে কিন্তু customer ID column টা আছে. So see here, the sequence of the columns. We must follow that sequence, right? So এখানে যদি আমি এই সিকোয়েন্সটা ওটা মানে যে সিকোয়েন্সে আমি হচ্ছে গিয়ে টেবিলটার কলামগুলো ক্রিয়েট করেছি, ওই সিকোয়েন্সটা যদি আমি ফলো না করি, I will definitely get errors. Let's say, for example, if we switch these, ঠিক আছে, if I place it second, and if I place this one first, we will get an error anyway, because I don't think they accept this. I think we're going to have to use something like this. Yeah. Let's change that. Who even wrote the slides? Okay. So if we were to do something like this, notice what we changed. We brought the second value first and the first value second. Just sequence to change kore diyechi. See what happens. Doesn't work. Incorrect decimal values. Why? Because when you define the customer table, you put the customer ID first, and that has a data type of what? Decimal. All right? But the SQL that you were trying to execute, is the first value a decimal value? Is this a decimal value?
No.
No, it's not. Of course, this will give you an error. Because এখানে তো বলে দেয়া আছে, আমরা তো বলছি customer table যে customer ID value is a decimal value. DBMS তো জানে না যে তুমি প্রথম ভ্যালু যে ইনসার্ট করছো সে কার, সে অটোমেটিক্যালি দেখবে কাস্টমার টেবিলে কি সিকোয়েন্সে আছে, সবার আগে আছে কাস্টমার আইডি, সে চেষ্টা করবে কাস্টমার আইডির মধ্যে কন্টেম্পোরারি ক্যাজুয়ালস এই ভ্যালুটা বসাতে, which will not work because customer ID has a decimal data type. All right, does it make sense?
Ma'am,
Yes.
since this is a error, is there any way, like in a terminal setting, I can't access these like
Yes,
visually
there is.
to show the structure?
Definitely there is. What we can do here to make sure that we don't make any mistakes is we can include the name of the columns right here. Let's say customer ID, customer underscore T pashe, that is. See customer underscore T pashe, if we use parenthesis and include the names of the column, sorry, customer ID, and then what? The next value was customer name, right? So customer name, and what else was there? This one is customer name. What is this again? Customer address.
As in, like, to show the structure of the table before I give any command to it.
Most IDs, the modern IDs, the advanced IDs, actually, when you try to insert the data, a suggestion diye deয়, ঠিক আছে? It will suggest things to you. In fact, even DBMS, if you use an advanced software for that, it will come with suggestions. যে অথবা কোন একটা লাইব্রেরি যদি নামায় না, ওর সাজেশন দিয়ে দেয়, এরকম আছে। But raw SQL, there is no way to take a look at it. What you can do is এখানে যেটা আমরা করছিলাম, you can keep going back to the table, টেবিলে গিয়ে গিয়ে দেখতে পারো যে ফার্স্টে কাস্টমার আইডি আছে, দেন ইউ ইনসার্ট কাস্টমার আইডি, দেন এন্ড সো অন। সো
Yeah, so
that's
that
why
I-
the mechanism that's there in place, মানে what we do with raw SQL, by the way, raw SQL এর সাথে আমরা যেটা করি যে, remember the importance of data dictionary, importance of relational schema design. Relational schema designer final work after normalization techniques have been applied, the final relational schema that we have, ওইখানে যে অর্ডারে অ্যাট্রিবিউট গুলো আছে ওই অর্ডারেই হচ্ছে গিয়ে আমরা টেবিলের অ্যাট্রিবিউট গুলো বসাই, ঠিক আছে? সো লেটস সে ফর এক্সাম্পল রিলেশনাল স্কিমাতে আমার যদি কাস্টমার টেবিলে অথবা রিমেম্বার দ্য রিলেশনাল স্কিমা ফর দ্য ইউনিডিবি এক্সাম্পল, ওই যে স্টুডেন্ট তারপর ডিপার্টমেন্ট এন্ড অল দ্যাট, সো ওখানে যেই অর্ডারে অ্যাট্রিবিউট গুলো বসানো আছে ওই অর্ডারে যদি আমি ফলো করি, what we can do is simply take a look at the relational schema design, right? In fact, for you guys, we will do something like that as well. তোমাদের এক্সামের জন্য we will refer to always the pubs database, all right? The pubs database that you have here. তোমাদের always the exam, the SQL assessments in the exam are created based on the pubs database. And এটার জন্য তোমাদেরকে আমরা একটা স্কিমা দিয়ে দিব। ওই স্কিমাটাকে দেখে তোমরা বুঝে নিতে পারবা কোন অ্যাট্রিবিউট আগে কোন অ্যাট্রিবিউট পরে স্কিমাটার বেসিসে, ঠিক আছে? Right, so you can refer to that schema. So with raw SQL, what we do is we follow the rules. We use the relational schema design, the final word, and the data dictionary is also created accordingly. ওই একই অর্ডারটা ফলো করে, যে অ্যাট্রিবিউট গুলা আগে আছে ওই অ্যাট্রিবিউট গুলো আগে রাখা হবে ডেটা ডিকশনারিতেও, পরের গুলো পরে, এন্ড দেন টেবিল ক্রিয়েট করার সময়ও ওই সেম অর্ডার ফলো করে আমি টেবিলের কলাম গুলো বসাবো, সো দ্যাট আমি জাস্ট রিলেশনাল স্কিমাটা দেখে বুঝতে পারবো which attribute is first, which attribute is second. আমি রিলেশনাল স্কিমাতে দেখবো কাস্টমারের পাশে হচ্ছে গিয়ে কাস্টমার রিলেশনের ওই রেক্ট্যাঙ্গেলের ভিতরে ফার্স্ট সেলে আছে কাস্টমার আইডি, সেকেন্ড সেলে হচ্ছে কাস্টমার নেম এন্ড সো অন। সো স্কিমাটা দেখে we can do this. All right, so for your exam the schema will be given, you can refer to the schema, the pub schema will be given. All right, okay, so for example, let's say we were trying to insert into the department table. All right, so let's say এই যে এখানে যেরকম কি দেয়া আছে, we don't know what you guys are saying, basically আমরা জানি না কোন কলাম আছে কোন কলাম নাই, কোন কলাম আগে কোন কলাম পরে। if this is what it looks like, if this is our insert command, if we are trying to insert in this way, will this work at all or not? How do we know? By consulting with the relational schema. Relational schema তে যে অর্ডার আছে এই অর্ডার অনুযায়ী যদি আমি টেবিল ক্রিয়েট করে থাকি তাহলে we can rely on the relational schema, and looking at the relational schema, which attribute was inserted first, which column was inserted first, department code. So which column will be there first in the table? Department code. But here, are we trying to insert the department code value first? Here, is this department code value?
No.
So will this work? No, it won't. It won't work. So what you guys were saying, either সলিউশনটার জন্য হচ্ছে you have the relational schema that will be provided to you in the exam. So ওখানে দেখলে ডিপার্টমেন্ট কোড সবার আগে, যখন আমি ডেটা ইনসার্ট করতে যাব তখন হচ্ছে গিয়ে আমি এখানে ফার্স্টে ডিপার্টমেন্ট কোডের ভ্যালুটা দিব, as you can see here, as is done here. So instead of putting this one first, I will insert this value first, the department code value, and then I will once again take a look at the relational schema design. What's next? Department name. So after department code, I will insert the department name by consulting with the relational schema design. Or better yet, what we can do is include. So see here, this command will work. Notice that the department name is first, the department code is second. Relational schema te kintu amar department code age, department name pore. But when we are inserting for this command specifically, the department name comes first, but the code comes later. Why will this work? Because we already also have referenced the attribute or the columns where these values will go. This will work because department er pashe ami bole dicchi ami prothome department name er value insert korchi, then department code. I'm also providing the reference or the names of the columns where these values will go to the DBMS. So DBMS ke jokhon ami department er pashe a dep name and dep code ei order ta diye dicchi, DBMS will know that okay, the first value will go to here, dep name, the second value CSC will go to here, dep code. That will work. However, if we were to remove this bit, এই জিনিসটা যদি আমাদের না থাকতো, then this would not work at all. Then you would get an error for this one. In that case, it would not work. This would not work. Why is that? Because in the table, the code is first, the department code comes first. So the DBMS, the first value it finds here, this value, it will try to insert into the department code, and it won't be able to do that because the data type doesn't match. So error dibe, all right? That's actually better. Error na dile to aro boro jhamela. যদি তুমি বলো যে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, এটার মানে অনেক সময় যেটা করে অনেকে, যে ধরো আমি কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স এন্ড ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এটা ইনসার্ট করতে গেলাম, ডিপার্টমেন্ট কোডে এরর দিল, সো দ্য সলিউশন ইজ দ্যাট ওকে, আমি টেবল ডিফাইন করার সময় আই উইল মেক ডিপার্টমেন্ট কোড varchar so that it doesn't give me an error, varchar with a huge size. That is actually worse because you want there to be errors. Always remember, errors that you are notified of are better than errors you don't know about, always. So restrictions must be there in place. So this is actually a good thing. Okay? This is something that is not allowed because of our strict data type. আমরা যদি ডিপার্টমেন্ট কোডটাকে একটা কার বানাই, কার data type বানাই with a fixed length of 3, that's when we will know that okay, we are trying to do something that is not right. This is not the department code. All right? Because the data type doesn't match. The database will try to insert the first value in the first column, which is the department code, and it will not work. However, if we were to do this, if we were to include the names of the columns where these values will go respectively, department name first দিয়েছি, so first value department name এর, dep code এখানে second value দিয়েছি, second value dep code এর, then it will work. However, if you change this order, then the change must be reflected here as well. As you can see here, dep code এখানে, for example, এখানে যদি আমি এখানে, if we were to do this, dep code first, and then dep name, if we were to do this, then it wouldn't work. Because I'm dep code আগে দিয়েছি, DBMS try করবে এটাকে, a computer science and engineering, this whole thing, it will try to insert into dep code. Then it will not work. Right? It must match. As you can see here, এখানে আমি অর্ডারটা চেঞ্জ করেছি, so value গুলোতেও অর্ডার চেঞ্জ করা হয়েছে. So that's the syntax for this, okay? And the other syntax that you should know of is the drop command or delete command. So if you want to delete from a certain table, this is the syntax that we use. All right. Delete from which table? Delete from is the command, by the way. Delete from, just how we have the insert into command. The command itself is insert into. Similarly, the command itself here is delete from. Insert into which table? The product table. Which values and so on. Delete from which table, all right, and so on. We will look at these things again in the next lecture. Just a small briefing for you guys to be able to work with these definitions or these scripts. এখানে যে স্ক্রিপ্টটা আছে, so that you can work with it. এখানে টেবিলগুলো যাতে create করতে পারো following the command, and the insert commands as well, pretty basic, nothing too complex, so that you can use it. That's why this discussion, right? But we will further explore a bit more into insert, delete, and update commands, all right, in the next lecture. No worries about that. But just so that you can work with this, that's why একটু বেসিকটা কভার করে গেলাম. একটা জিনিস একটু বলে রাখি, এখানে কিছু জায়গায় you might face some issues. আগে থেকে বলে রাখলাম, the dates, yes, the dates. Date format গুলো একটু চেক করতে হবে whether the date format matches with whichever database you're using, all right? If you get an error, good, you can fix the error. If you don't get an error and you don't even know where the error is, that's when it's alarming. So এই যে এই date typeটা এখানের মধ্যে কি দেয়া আছে? For example, this one is probably date, month, year. No, sorry, it's year, month, date. No, sorry, it's year, month, date. Nikki, I'm not sure. No, sorry, yeah.
24th.
No, it's date, month, year. All of them are 10, so yeah, it's date, month, year. Here, the format is date, month, year. But whichever database you're using, first you have to find out, ওখানে date format টা কি date, month, year, নাকি year, month, date, নাকি so on. This is date, month, year. If the database you're using, if it's supposed to be year, month, date, and plus on top of that, if the month is supposed to be a number, in that case, তোমার কিন্তু change হয়ে যাচ্ছে. Then you have to do 10/10 for October, 10/21, year, month, date. If the database works that way, all right? So date টা একটু চেক করে নিতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? So এই জিনিসগুলো একটু মাথায় রাখতে হবে. And also, I don't know if your specific the software that you will use will allow for this specific quotation. For example, you guys just saw that these single quotations had to be changed to double quotations and so on. So yeah. So yeah, okay, good luck with trying out to create these things. And if you face any errors or if you face any issues, make sure you send me an email. By this weekend, I want all of you guys to be able to create this database. I will perform a check in the next week. Pura week ta dilam. Ideally, you should be done by the next class. That is before Monday, you should be done executing the entire population script, if possible, inserting the data as well. But by this weekend, for sure, I will check. A weekend report, next week, first class, or a weekend Saturday, makeup class niveau in that one. I will check whether you have actually done this or not. All right. So that's all. I've already extended a bit more than the time that was allotted for us. So let's end the session here.
Yeah.